Prince William is never going to forgive Prince Harry. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is never going to forgive Meghan Markle. And today I've got to bring some home truths to this situation because I am noting what is almost becoming a histrionic push by the British establishment and by the British mainstream media who want this drama to keep going, who want this soap opera to keep going, to almost bully William into doing something that morally he is utterly opposed to. And remember, his warnings to the Sussex duo were clear. If you go there, there's the red line. If you cross it, I'm gone for good. And that red line involved Catherine, the Princess of Wales. They went there. They didn't just go there, though, did they? They crossed it so ludicrously. And that's before you get to dog food gate. That's before you get to racism lie gate. So today we're going to do a deep dive into what is really going on between Prince William and Prince Harry. Angela Levin, Prince Harry's biographer, our royal mastermind, will join us shortly. But first I want to take you through this opinion piece from Rob Shooter, the formal royal courtier turned columnist, who asked the question, will Prince William and Prince Harry ever reconcile? And he writes, people often ask me the same question. Will Prince William and Prince Harry ever reconcile? Having spent time around the royal family as Princess Michael of Kent's publicist, I've learned that Windsor grudges have astonishingly staying power. Family disputes inside the House of Windsor rarely end with a heartfelt conversation and a tidy resolution. So true. More often, they settle into something colder. Distance, politeness, and acceptance. So my answer won't shock anyone familiar with royal history. I don't believe William and Harry will ever fully reconcile. The rift has moved far beyond a disagreement between brothers. The real casualty has been trust, the most valuable currency in any family, but especially in one where private conversations will become front-page news around the world. One royal insider told me, William believes the relationship has fundamentally changed. He's moved on emotionally, and that's very hard to reverse. Another source was even more direct. People are still hoping for a reunion because they remember Diana's boys. The reality is that these are now two very different men, living two very different lives. It's a painful assessment, but it's one shared by people close to the situation, many people. William is preparing for the future as king. Harry has built a new life thousands of miles away in California. Their worlds, their responsibilities and priorities no longer overlap in the way they once did. And yet I refuse to say never, because there is one factor nobody can predict: time. Time has a way of softening even the hardest edges. Children grow up. Priorities change. The events that once felt unforgivable can lose some of their emotional charge. As one long-time royal observer told me, a dramatic reconciliation is unlikely, but one day they may simply decide the fight isn't worth carrying anymore.
What if the life you once had suddenly became the life you can't stop thinking about? Fresh royal commentary is reigniting old conversations about Prince Harry's past relationships, his former girlfriend Chelsy Davy, and the choices that have shaped his life over the last several years. Some commentators are asking a difficult question. Does Prince Harry ever look back and wonder what might have been? And could memories of his past still be influencing the present? Stay with us, because this story isn't really about old relationships. It's about regret, choices, and the extraordinary pressure that comes with living your life in the public eye. Before meeting Meghan Markle, Prince Harry's most talked about relationship was with Chelsy Davy. Their relationship lasted for years and attracted enormous media attention. Many royal watchers believed they might one day marry. But ultimately, they went their separate ways. Years later, Harry built a new life with Meghan, stepped away from royal duties, and moved to California. Yet stories about his past continue to generate enormous public interest. Why? Because people are naturally fascinated by questions of love, choices, and second chances.
That, to me, feels far more plausible than a grand public reunion. No emotional television special. No sweeping royal photo opportunity. Just two brothers eventually reaching a place where anger no longer dominates the relationship. Will they ever be as close as they once were? Almost certainly not. Too much has happened, too much has been said, and too much of it played out under the brightest spotlight in the world. But could they eventually find peace? Yes, I think that's possible. And in a family where history is filled with estrangements, scandals, and unexpected reunions, that's a possibility I wouldn't completely dismiss. Angela Levin, I respect Rob Shuter, and I respect the fact that he's talking about this from the perspective of other royal feuds as a former royal courtier. But the difference here, Angela, is that the way Harry destroyed the relationship was not polite. This wasn't a behind-the-scenes argument. Harry trashed his own brother and his own sister-in-law in the most public way possible. That's something, Angela, even the Duke of Windsor didn't do. After his failed reign as king, during his marriage with Wallis Simpson, and he was never fully forgiven and brought into the fold, Harry went nuclear. And that had consequences. So I don't even believe that in time William will ever forgive his brother, because the point is, the things that Harry said, the shade that he threw, the mud that he put up against that wall sticks. And William knows that. What's your view?
Well, I agree with you totally. I feel very much that people who are attacked by a member of their family, they care more for their partner, their husband, their wife, than they do for themselves. And I think William was absolutely devastated about the awful things that Harry has said about Catherine. And, you know, Catherine helped him when they made a 3 times they were going to do about people's help. They can't sort of think what they want, and they were all very upset doing all that. And I think that if you look at this particular, that there was just seeing this picture, that Meghan started talking first. She talked most of the time, and Catherine every now and then gave William a look to think, for goodness sake, shut up. But that's slightly different. But it's actually to wound somebody, to hurt them. And Catherine was very upset by what he'd said about her husband. Not only that, but he was incredibly rude to the Queen. That's their grandmother, who they adored. They gave her a terrible feeling that, you know, she was anti people like her because she was coloured and all this. And the husband, that they made them both feel extremely ill. And William has actually taken that with him. So it's not just him. And also, the thing I said once before to you, that Harry has asked many times if he can take over their children and show them what to do, and so they wouldn't want to write a book like he had to do. And, you know, because it's very difficult if you're, you know, one of the other ones. George will be all right, but the other two won't, and he can really help them. And William is terrified if he gets near to their children, and I don't blame him. And so this is another reason why they're not going to be cushy with them at all, because their children, as we can see, are brilliant, kind, nice, you know, enjoy life and sensible. You don't feel that they're having a terrible time. And I think that's what will stop it. Absolutely stop it.
Well, indeed, because there's also an element... Oh, sorry, Angela, make your point.
No, well, just going to say that actually it's very hard to change what you feel like. He's gone on another journey, hasn't he? And Harry, as we saw, he did that stupid sort of thing as a joke, which you read to me that got lost when he was 16. Like most boys would forget that by 16, but he was doing still stupid faces. And I think William is...
Yeah, at the Warrior Games earlier this week, he was He's playing the clown, isn't he? And he keeps on playing the clown, and
That's
it's
it.
just a bit embarrassing.
Yes, it's embarrassing for everyone because really he's very unhappy and he's not having a nice time. And so he does those sorts of things. He does everything that William does in some sort of way, but that's William's just going to close his eyes to it. He's got a lot to do. He's got a lot of things to remember and to be responsible for, and very important things. And he's not going to be upset by Harry's stupid things because you just cut it out. I mean, I've had somebody I had to cut out, my mother. She was awful, and I had to sort of just cut it right out. And although that I tried to be nice, I just couldn't do it because she was so awful. And so, I know that feeling that there comes a time when you're just going to stop it.
Wow. And you just have to say no.
Yes.
And no way back in. There's a certain calm, I think, Angela, to what is going on with Prince Harry, though, because, as I say, everyone warned him of the consequences of his actions. And he keeps on being reminded that people from his past are living their best life as his crumbles. And I think we saw an example of that this week, Angela, with Chelsy Davy, who a lot of people think is the true love of his life, who revealed her new life in Mauritius. And there are a lot of headlines about this. Harry's ex living the dream, juggling motherhood with building her jewellery brand, while brand Sussex hits another bump in the road. And you could say, that's the understatement of the year. And the Mail reported that on Sunday, the Zimbabwe-born entrepreneur took her Instagram followers behind the scenes of a tropical photo shoot for her fine jewellery label, Aya, complete with a stunning orange sunset and adorable glimpses of her 3 children. The jewellery designer's day in the life post comes after royal experts claimed the tide has turned for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after Netflix ended their multi-million-dollar deal with the Sussexes. That's in a Channel 5 documentary where Alexander Larman, the author of Power and Glory, Elizabeth II and the Rebirth of Royalty, said Netflix are not a stupid company, but they're beginning to look very strongly like they had gambled far too much money on a public appetite for a brand that doesn't exist. In America, there is this great love and affection for the royal family, but there's also the sense that Harry and Meghan were not quite the people they thought they were going to be. And Angela, look, I always loved Chelsy Davy. She was such a great woman. She would have been such a great addition to the British royal family. But at the same time, I'm so happy her life has worked out in this way.
Yes, but do you know what happened? It was Harry's fault. She was wonderful for him and he had a very good time and she helped him be happy and not get so upset about things. And then she went to university and he wouldn't go and see her. He didn't want to go. And then he started having lots of affairs with other women. Now, what would she do? She'd just say, get out of it. And then he was all sorry and he wanted to sort of her to apologise. He would apologise and it would all be nice. But, no thanks. You don't want to go through that again. So he ruined it for himself, absolutely. And whether he's really regretted it, I don't know. But he was very happy with her and she wasn't after lots of jewellery and expensive clothes. She could make her own jewellery, but she didn't go after expensive things. She just loved, and she loved animals like he did. And so she was very upset afterwards, but she's very happy now. And I'm very, very pleased for her because she's a very lovely woman and he missed that.
Angela, the other extraordinary royal revelation of the week is in regards to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And you'll remember we spoke a lot about that moment when Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie arrived at the wedding of Peter Phillips to Harriet Spurling. And lots of people were questioning, why did the other members of the British royal family just pull up in their cars? Yet these two, who apparently haven't wanted to be photographed, walked as if it was almost like a catwalk into the wedding. And then, of course, they would have been very happy that this kiss with William was captured on camera. And it turns out, Angela, according to an astonishing report in the Daily Mail, which very much seems to have had a lot of briefing from Buckingham Palace, that Andrew was behind it. And there's a whole load of crazy revelations, actually, about what is going on in Andrew's life, Andrew, and I think it is worth us getting into. So let me take you through some of it, and then I'll get your analysis. So Barbara Davies, but she's a feature writer for the Daily Mail, and my belief is that, as I say, that this has been briefed by royal sources close to King Charles. That's my understanding. Writes, behind this extraordinary gesture of defiance, as the Daily Mail can exclusively reveal, was none other than their disgraced father, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. For while Beatrice and Eugenie are said to have been in two minds about whether to even attend their cousin's nuptials, I can reveal that Andrew, still nursing an ego as bruised as his recently photographed face, emailed his daughters from exile in rural Norfolk, urging them not merely to show their faces, but to, quote, hold their heads high. For there are worrying signs that despite being reduced to the rank of commoner, the former Duke is very much clinging on to ideas above his much reduced station, and is now pushing his daughters to fight to keep their own grand titles and prop up what is left of the House of York. Indeed, he even gave a jaw-dropping speech to his staff, telling them despite being stripped of his titles, he would damn well continue to be called by his correct titles in his own house until they, quote, send a vampire to suck out every drop of royal blood in my veins. And the Mail reports that increasingly furious at what Andrew sees as his brother the king's heavy-handedness, he is girding his loins for a right royal battle, one which now risks turning very ugly indeed. And the Daily Mail's well-placed royal source says this: Andrew has hardened considerably of late and believes he has been used as a scapegoat. He believes that the king has exceeded his authority and acted beyond his powers. He is beginning to fight back. As well as chasing hundreds of thousands of pounds from the Crown estate after his lease at Royal Lodge in Windsor was cut short by his eviction in February, Andrew was also demanding a payout for his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, who was also thrown out and has since left the country. While demands for face-to-face meetings with King Charles have been quietly ignored rather than refused, Andrew's main point of contact is Lord Benyon, the Lord Chamberlain, who acts as the brothers' go-between, and has been to visit the former prince at Marsh Farm Cottage, his new abode on the Sandringham estate. The king, meanwhile, did not so much as put his head around his brother's door when he was in residence at Sandringham last month. Evidence, if any more, was needed of just how much a thorn in the side of his feckless brother has become. Now, according to the source, Camilla in particular believes that the king would soften his stance towards Andrew if the two met up. His Majesty dislikes conflict and prefers to bury his head in the sand while others do the dirty work. And then there is a claim that at the wedding, at the Peter Phillips wedding, one of the reasons why the king and Camilla rushed off so quickly to the Epsom Derby was so that they didn't have to speak to Beatrice and Eugenie. And the source says that Beatrice and Eugenie's hopes to lobby the king were dashed by the rapid exit. Then the Daily Mail says it has exclusively discovered that the king is not happy about this rental arrangement where effectively he's totally paying for the grace and favour cottages of Beatrice and Eugenie on royal estates. Last year, palace officials wrote to the princesses indicating that current dwelling arrangements at royal residence were to be reviewed and diplomatically suggested that they might consider making alternative arrangements for central London lodgings. According to the Daily Mail's royal source, they seem to have done nothing, prompting a follow-up letter in April. The king has delegated the matter to officials to avoid getting his hands dirty and having to have awkward conversations with them. Beatrice, it is said, is a particular issue as she stands in the way of plans to extend commercial lets at St James's Palace. She has a relatively secluded apartment in what is a very open-plan palace and doesn't want to move, says the source. Anne, the last working royal living there, is unfussed by the opening up and is happy to remain there or move to an apartment elsewhere, whatever is best for the king. Eugenie's Grace and Favour Kensington Palace home is equally problematic given that it is situated in a secure area and therefore not really suitable for the open market. She is known to be very fond of it, says the Daily Mail's royal source. She really doesn't want to go, although the option of paying the rent herself with the amount made public has been put on the table. William would prefer that a clean break is made and that she moved out of the royal gated community. Barbara Davies adds, if Andrew has had something of a rough ride in recent weeks and he remains bloodied but unbowed, still clinging on to his unwavering belief in his status no matter what the king does. Not least, I can reveal he is still insisting on being addressed by his staff, all three of them, as Sir, and referred to as the Duke. Few will forget the expletive-laden rant he delivered last October from the top of the staircase at Royal Lodge, where he reminded his lackeys that despite being stripped of his titles, they'd better not forget he was still the son, brother and uncle of monarchs and the father of princesses, a man related to the thrones of Greece and Denmark through his father. Wow, Angela, this was fascinating reporting in the Daily Mail, and it suggests that Andrew is still very much pulling the strings behind the scenes, and he is not happy. Angela, what did you make of it all?
Yes, I think, but he was obviously very upset when it all happened, but he's got nothing to do now and he's built up his energy and he now thinks, I'm not standing for this. I have got royal blood. I won't let them tell me what to do. And my brother, I won't listen to a word he says. Now, they've never been friends, so he would feel he could give as hard a fight as possible, but it'd be difficult for the king to deal with him. The one thing that's peculiar for me is that Camilla, who I know, that she actually is somebody who likes to forgive and to forget if they've been nasty to anybody she knows or indeed to herself. And she said this with Andrew. But, I mean, that's the most important, is her husband, and he doesn't want him around. He doesn't like him. She doesn't like him either, because he tried very, very hard to stop the Queen, the late Queen, to allow her to get married to Charles. So I don't quite understand that, and I need to sort of look into this. But actually, I don't think that they will forgive him. I don't think they want anything to do with him. And I think that the difficulty is the children, Beatrice and Eugenie. I think it's very, very, very difficult. And as I said to you, that I could understand if they were much younger when they met to see this awful man who raped girls. But
Epstein.
I think that, yes,
Jeffrey Epstein.
but I think that actually, if you were sort of 18, 19, and you said you'd go and have, meet him for a party or invite him to your 18th birthday, I think that I don't understand what girl could actually say, well, let's go. I think they said, let's go away.
Exactly. They were royals.
Yes.
And they were adults and they made that mistake, which I guess is why William has been a little bit more unforgiving. Do you think, Angela, they should be forced to move out of their cottages within the royal palaces?
Well, everybody's complaining about these cottages and saying it's not right that they shouldn't have any money. And actually, if their husbands and themselves have got some money, I think that they should move out or pay something for it. I don't think they should have things that cost nothing. And
so pay a market rent in the way that William is.
I think they're quite upset that the king is quite upset that his mother said that this is how she wanted things, and it's actually very, very complicated to deal with it. But everybody's complaining about everything, aren't they, really? They're complaining if they don't pay money, if they do pay money, what they're like. But I think what's happened in their lives, it's just very difficult, and it can't be just grinned at and forgotten.
Recent commentary and social media discussions have once again focused on Harry's past and whether he may sometimes reflect on the path his life has taken. Some observers believe it is perfectly normal for anyone to occasionally think about previous relationships and major life decisions. Others argue that public speculation about personal regrets often goes too far. Importantly, only Prince Harry himself knows how he truly feels. But that hasn't stopped the discussion. Because when it comes to Harry's personal life, public curiosity remains incredibly strong. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Because this isn't really about Chelsy Davy. It's about one question that almost everyone asks themselves at some point. What if? What if life had taken a different path? What if different choices had been made? What if things had turned out another way? Those questions are deeply human. And perhaps that's why stories like this resonate with so many people. Because behind the titles and headlines, Prince Harry's story often touches on experiences many people understand. Love, loss, change, and wondering how different decisions might have shaped the future. Life rarely unfolds exactly as we expect. Relationships end. New chapters begin. Dreams change. People evolve. For Prince Harry, those experiences have unfolded in front of the entire world. Every relationship, every decision, every challenge. And because his life has been so public, people naturally continue asking questions about the roads not taken. But perhaps the biggest question isn't whether Harry looks back on his past. Perhaps the real question is this: has the extraordinary change in his life made people more curious than ever about the choices that brought him here? Since stepping away from royal duties, Harry and Meghan have built a very different life from the one many once expected. Their journey has included media projects, charitable work, and frequent headlines. At the same time, the royal family itself has entered a new era under King Charles III, with Prince William increasingly representing the monarchy's future. Against that backdrop, every story involving Harry's past and present takes on added significance. Because people aren't simply discussing one person's life. They're discussing one of the most fascinating modern royal stories ever told. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of this latest controversy isn't the speculation itself. It's the fact that people remain deeply invested in Harry's journey. The public continues asking questions, looking for meaning, trying to understand how one of the world's most famous princes arrived at this point in his life. And there is little sign that fascination is fading. So, does Prince Harry ever reflect on the paths not taken? Does he think about old relationships or wonder how life might have been different? Only he truly knows. But one thing is certain. The story of Prince Harry remains one of the most compelling, emotional, and closely watched narratives in the world today. Do you think everyone occasionally wonders about the roads not taken in life? Or is it best to focus entirely on the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy royal news, palace drama, and in-depth analysis of the biggest stories involving Harry, Meghan, William, Catherine, and King Charles, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the next royal headline could be even more surprising than this one.